Good morning and welcome everyone to our 2022 Technology Outlook. My name is Jen and I'm going to be your presenter today. And in this webinar today, we're going to take you on the path to start thinking about next year. What we've done is that we've compiled some of the major trends based upon our customer feedback, the topics that we get increasingly more asked about, and we thought it would be good to, as the last session of this year, share some of these insights with you. We're going to have a look at all of the different technology trends that are changing the landscape as we see it today. Everyone has been placed on mute in this webinar, but if you would like to interact, please on the left-hand side, you will find buttons in the chat where you can see that I already posted a message, or you can use the questions functionality and that will give you questions that I will answer towards the end of the session today. Before we get started, I always need to make everyone familiar with some of the key house rules. So please note that this session is being recorded. At the end of the session, we will upload this recording towards YouTube and our social media channels. So it's always possible to watch all of these things back. This platform is an interactive platform, and some of you might have used it before. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can ask questions, you can chat with me, and also note that you can download the slides of this session. If you head over towards the handout section, I've uploaded the PDF of this presentation, so you can follow along or download or make any notes. At the end of this session, you're also going to be prompted to provide us with some feedback. We're always looking for ways to improve our sessions. And even though this is the last webinar of the year, we really would like you to let us know which topics you would like us to discuss in next year. Good. Before I get started, let me take a brief moment to introduce myself. My name is Jan-Willem Middelburg, and I'm one of the founders of Sybient. And in this session today, we're going to be talking around some of the ways in which we can make a more technology-driven and data-driven world for the next generation. Besides doing a lot of these sessions, I'm also very much involved in writing. So I've written some books on automation, big data, and especially gaming. In some of these topics you will see coming back in the session today. I really like to talk about technology, and one of the key things that you're going to see throughout this session is some of the main topics that have been brought forward and have been brought to my attention throughout a number of these talks over the year. If you want to get in touch with me after the session, or you would have any additional questions based on the webinar, you can always reach out to me. So my contact details are on the left side of the slide. So by all means, feel free to drop me a message through LinkedIn or through email. So what are we going to talk about today? This is the second time that we're organizing the Technology Outlook. And there's two main reasons that we're actually doing this. Many of us are involved on a day-to-day business with IT operations in whatever way. And in doing so, you can kind of get caught up in all the day-to-day operational activities. So we all also think that at the end of a year is a really good moment to kind of reflect on what has been going on. So I'm always taking some time to look back at all of the topics, the questions, and also do some analysis from what people are asking and searching for on our platforms and social media. Therefore, it's a time of reflection and also a time to start planning for new things for the next year. And what I'm going to do today is share some of those new ideas and insights with you. Some of these trends might sound recognizable because you might have heard me talk about it before, but I've also included a number of key new topics that are coming up, which you might not know, might not have even heard about, or that might be completely new. So the whole purpose of this last session of the year is to kind of provide you with some inspiration and to start thinking about what are the key next topics that might be of interest for next year. For some of you, and I saw some familiar names on the webinar today, many of you who have seen a presentation from me before know that one of my favorite slogans is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, which is a very famous quote from Alice in Wonderland. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about what that road can look like. What are some of the key areas that you might want to dive into? And what would be key topics that are for sure coming back in the next year, 2022 already? So that's what we're going to do. For today, I have selected 5 major topics. And what I will do is I will present 2 or 3 slides around each of those topics. One of the major new trends that we get a lot of questions about, and we have been doing a lot of training courses over on the last year, is the new trend of site reliability engineering. Site reliability engineering really took a flight in 2021, and I expect that this trend will continue to grow in 2022. Many of the larger organizations across Asia Pacific are implementing site reliability engineering in one way or another. So for many of you, this might be a new topic. So let me start with giving you a bit of guidance on what SRE is and what it stands for. Site reliability engineering is a methodology that was developed at Google, and it has been their approach to service management for over a decade. Because of the rapid success of Google and the way that they need to support high scaling organizations, many organizations have become interested in this approach. So SRE is growing very rapidly, both in terms of popularity, but also in terms of adoption. So what is it exactly? One of the best ways to explain what SRE is actually all about is to look at the following sentence. The class SRE implements DevOps. Where many organizations have already been on a journey towards transformation in terms of DevOps for the last 3 to 5 years, many organizations are struggling with this methodology because it is not very prescriptive. As many of you know, DevOps prides itself on being a culture. It's a cultural movement in which we facilitate collaboration between development and operations teams. The SRE movement goes one step further and tries to find some more tangible, some more measurable, and also some more controlling aspects to how do you make this work in practice. So for the programmers amongst us, you could say that SRE is a more rigid implementation of the DevOps methodology. Another way of looking at this is by the very famous quote from Google itself. Site reliability engineering is what happens when a software engineer is tasked with something what used to be called operations. And I kind of like this quote very much because it showcases the closer integration and the increased focus on an engineering approach towards operation. But if you have not seen anything about SRE yet, I highly encourage you to check this out next year. From Sabian's point of view, this was one of our fastest growing programs in the last year. And also, if you look at our hits on the website and YouTube, this has been by far our most searched for topic in the last year. So this is definitely something that will continue to grow in the upcoming year. So why is this happening? What is exactly the motivation for SRE? Many organizations that have been on their DevOps journey for the last few years have started with implementing some of the basic ideas: collaboration between the teams, building DevOps pipelines, and getting a good technology stack in to support this DevOps tool chain. However, what they found is that in terms of measurements, the traditional ways of looking at agreements, and then specifically service level agreements, was still not improving. And this is where SRE comes in. At SRE, what they mainly set in the center is the term reliability. So, how can an organization, and especially a large organization, ensure that they keep delivering reliable services? One of the ways in which they do this is by looking at the introduction of service level objectives. So, what is going to be the main point that customers are going to be happy with? I think that reliability will become a core focal point for many more organizations in the years to come. In case you're already interested in this, please note that the book that I listed here on the slide is a free download. So if you just Google Site Reliability Workbook, you will be able to download that for free. Additionally, I've also provided a webinar on SRE earlier this year, and I also highly encourage you to check this out because this has been one of our most watched and most featured webinars and sessions from 2021. Good. And next major trend that we're going to look at is service automation. And this is really one of the main topics where service management meets automation. This trend has become significantly larger in the last years. Many of you who have been on my sessions before will know that I'm a big advocate of service automation. Already since 2017, I've been advocating for the use and the increased adoption of automation technology within the service management domain. Maybe it's because of the global pandemic, or maybe the world is more ready for automation today. But what we've seen and will continue to see for next year is an increased focus on the automation of services. One of the ways in which I always like to explain this is if we take a look at some of the most successful companies that are existing in the world today. Many of us will have accounts or will have worked with some of the companies that we see on the screen. Think about Grab, Booking, Spotify, or Netflix, or Geico for getting insurance. All of these companies are service providers. But if you think about whether you actually ever talked to one of these companies in person, and I don't mean your Grab driver, then the answer to that question is probably no. So the thing that all of these very successful, very fast growing companies have in common is that they are delivering services in a completely automated way. From the first interaction, which is typically downloading an application or interacting through them through some kind of self-service portal, towards the automated deployment, automated delivery, and even automated payments, the whole customer journey of these kinds of companies has been set right from the beginning towards the end in a completely automated fashion. That does not mean that these companies don't employ a lot of people. They do. But the interface with their customers is primarily through digital means. Please note that service automation does not mean that everything needs to be automated. And I think a very good example is if we look at, for instance, services like Grab. In order to travel from point A to point B, or to get your groceries, or to order and bring parcels from different locations, you will still need to have manual services. Think about a car, think about a driver that is going to bring you from point A to point B. Yet, what these kind of service automation companies do really well is that they are automating every step in the middle. And that's really what service automation is all about. Can you automate the customer journey? And that is really one of the trends that we have seen growing very, very rapidly this year. Banks, insurance companies, big oil and gas companies are searching for ways in which their traditional services can now be delivered in a fully automated version. And there's actually quite a couple of good reasons to do so. Service automation has 5 crucial business drivers which are becoming more and more relevant every single year. First of all, is that automation is highly scalable. If you're delivering automated services, it does not matter whether you're delivering services to 1, 100, or even 100,000 people at the same time. Because you are driving all of that traffic and all of that interaction through a self-service interface, you also start collecting data. And this gives you a lot of oversight on what kind of services people appreciate, where they're struggling, and where you're losing your customers along that customer journey. So automation automatically leads towards data-driven decision making. And that is still one of the most and best ways to start optimizing your processes. The third element is that automation also makes your business way more user centric because you don't have anybody that can guide you on the on the journey. You will need to convince your users and customers to interact with you and to provide real value for your users. So service automation is also a way to reinvent your business model. The fourth element, as you can see here on the screen, and which I typically like to refer to as the CFO argument, is that automation in the longer run is also more cost efficient. This does not mean that it is there to replace people, but it's there to make sure that repetitive work can be executed more efficiently. And last, and maybe most importantly, service automation can help you to exceed user expectations in the long run. If you want to learn more around service automation, note that we have a number of different resources for you available. On our website, you can download a number of white papers, one of which will explore the service automation framework in detail. Over this year, I've also given a number of different talks around service automation. So if you want to learn more around this trend, please feel free to check this out online. It's time to move to trend number 3 already. And that has everything to do with the customerization of RPA services, but then specifically for the non-IT domain. In the last year, we have seen that most of the requests for automated solutions are coming from organizations which are not necessarily in the IT domain. And this has led towards the introduction of what is known as the citizen developer. A citizen developer is a non-technical user that creates simple automations for themselves and their departments. And you typically see these kind of citizen developers coming from departments like HR, finance, or even facilities. Frequently, these are non-IT departments. And what we've been seeing over the last year is that many of the more day-to-day processes that are happening within those specific departments are now being automated by people who have no technology background. We therefore strongly believe that RPA services for non-IT roles and functions will continue to grow next year. So if you're joining today and you don't have an IT background, don't worry. The citizen developers that are available today, including the different solutions, will make it easier for you to start designing your own workflows. All of this is powered by what today is known as low-code platforms and solutions. And this will also continue to grow in the next year. Low-code solutions are easy development environment where you can just drag and drop and click your workflows together. It's similar to using an Excel spreadsheet in which you would just need to key in a number of formulas and the workflow will run automatically. The fact that many of these workflows are cloud-based and ready to use make them very, very easy. Over this year, we have done 10 different sessions in which we provided half a day training in these kinds of solutions for citizen developers. And every session, we had over 25 different people who joined and ranging towards our highest attended session of more than 100. We also have seen that the demand and the integration for automation is growing rapidly. Earlier this year, we organized the Automation Days. And if you're interested in this field, we have uploaded all of the recordings of all of the Automation Day session on our website and YouTube. So if you're interested to learn how to build these kind of robots by yourself, or in general more interested to see how you can power or leverage these kinds of technologies within your own company, I highly encourage you to check this out because we have a lot of free resources available on this. Moving on towards a more new technology. And this might be something that for most people will be completely new. Over the last year, we have seen an increase in demand and a continuous growth path for a term that I think you will see way more next year, which is security information and event management. And basically, this is a combination of security best practices and management as we know it today, but then combined with security event management in the more traditional sense of the word that we typically see in most service management and IT operations environment. The integration of security within event management so that you have the ability to detect and see things earlier will definitely continue to grow over the next year. Service in security integration and event management works by gathering event logs and having the ability to look at these logs very quickly and host them from different and configure information from different host systems, applications, and security devices. This way, you can get real-time insights into any potential security threats that your organization is facing. As the world is moving more and more to digital and more online, this also means that the risks are growing in this area. Security information and event management is therefore something that I think will continue to grow very rapidly. We see more and more tools being launched in this area and more platforms that have the ability to monitor this. Yet, if I ask most of our customers whether they have this in place, many are not even familiar with the term. So if this is something that is also unfamiliar to you, I strongly recommend that you take a look into this. For Cybiant, this is going to be one of our major drivers for next year, and we will be starting to publish, research, and train more on security information and event management. At this moment, there's still very little guidance and best practice besides a number of different tools, but this will definitely change in 2022. If I were to give you a very quick overview of what this concept is that you could look at the following slide. Security information and event management is going to be important because it makes it easier for companies to manage their security and filter massive amounts of security data from one centralized location. Basically, what this approach does is that it combines different technologies together with the technologies that you already will have in place, like log analysis, dashboards, real-time alerting. So it's really the event management that we typically see in IT operations, but then applied towards the security domain so that you can make real-time decisions and real-time actions based upon things as they are happening in real time. This is going to be one of the crucial forms of insights, and companies that have the ability to act on this faster will have the ability to also mitigate those threats more easily. So as you can see, I'm really interested in this field, and I do think that this is going to be a major trend that we will see next year. If you combine this with the smarter data processing technologies that we see nowadays, like machine learning and AI algorithms, you can even start to see how we can start to focus and predict when these particular threats will happen. So if you're new to this concept, check it out and start learning a little bit more around this topic. And that automatically provides a nice little bridge towards one of our next topics, which is the introduction of cognitive analytics. Over the last 2 years, there has been a massive amount of focus on artificial intelligence. Nowadays, you cannot even be a technology company anymore if you don't have AI embedded in some of your service offering. Yet, from all of the discussions that we had with clients, is that most of them find it very difficult to find a more operational use of artificial intelligence. The domain of AI is complex, in most cases, highly scientific, and that also means that it requires years to master. Trust me, I've been involved in this domain for now 4 years, and I'm still learning new things every single day. It's complex and it requires really years to actually apply it. There's no way that you could just invent an AI solution from scratch like most organizations claim and are aiming for today. So, in order to find a more practical way, the term that you see growing this last year is the term cognitive analytics. And cognitive analytics is important because it is looking at the AI domain, but extracting a number of things that are more simple and more practical. What companies want is to have use cases of artificial intelligence that are proven and that are driven by existing and familiar algorithms. This makes it easier to share, but it also makes it easier to comprehend and to trust. So, what I think we'll see happening more and more in next year is that we will see cognitive analytics rise as a term, and which is basically artificial intelligence, but then specifically within an enterprise context. And to visualize this a little bit more in detail, you could look at this from a perspective that many organizations have already in place. And this is from an analytics and big data point of view. So we look at the definition of cognitive analytics, we see that it's the design and development of algorithms that are able to reflect human decision making, but then on perceived environment and personalized characteristics. What that means is that you could look at cognitive analytics as an extension of your current analytics and big data stack. Many corporations will already have tools and technology in place which they can use for descriptive analytics all the way towards prescriptive and all of the phases in between. So if you look at it from that particular approach, then AI basically becomes a logical next step. Some more advanced algorithms, but you can run them on your current data warehouses and data lakes in any way. So it means that you don't need to start developing AI solutions from scratch. It gives you the opportunity to take it step by step approach. So I really think that this is also going to be one of the growth domains for next year. Cognitive analytics gives companies the opportunity to take their first steps with AI, but within a controlled and simplistic environment. So these are the main key trends that I wanted to share with you today. For next year, you should learn a little bit more around the following topics. And it's my opinion that by looking at these newer technologies, you can always stay ahead of the game. The 5 major predictions that Cybiant is giving for 2022 are the growth of site reliability engineering, which is the first topic that we discussed. We will also see a continued growth of the automation domain, but then specifically within 2 areas. The first area would be within the automation of services specifically, which is a term known as service automation. And the second part is the adoption of automation by non-technical users, which we refer to as citizen developers or RPA for non-IT users. I think those will be 2 major focus areas within the automation domain. The fourth and completely new one is security information and event management, which is the application of event management methodologies and techniques that we typically see in ITSM environments, but then applied towards security. And last but not least, the term cognitive analytics as an extension of your current analytics environments to start applying AI algorithms towards existing corporate environments. This is our advice for 2022. So I know Christmas is still a couple of days out, but this is already our first and free gift to you. Whether this is going to be true, we never know. And that's always the fun of making a technology outlook. I hope that next year, December, when we're presenting our next ones, we can see whether this has been true or not. This is also immediately our moment to thank everyone for all of the year's participation, for joining all of our different events, sessions, training courses over the year. We are hoping that you will have some very good holidays in the next 2 weeks ahead. And we really look forward to seeing all of you back again in 2022, powered by our Cybiant Technology Outlook 2022. Thanks so much for joining, and I would like to open up to see if there are any questions coming in. Good. I see one question coming in, whether the slides will be shared. The answer is yes. You can actually already download the slides right away. So if you go towards the handout section on the left-hand side of the screen, you can download all of the handouts from this technology outlook. Good. One other question from John Wee. Hi, John Wee. Quick question around CM. How can we get started around this? I'll put it on the screen right now. How to get started with this? Well, the first part is starting to learn a little bit around this. What we are doing at the moment is that we're building some knowledge articles around it. And we're also building a training course to address this topic in a little bit more detail. So my first advice is start from a knowledge perspective. So look at where can you learn a little bit more around this. Personally, I think that there's still a bit of a lag or gap in this area. So that's something that we're going to address. The other part is to kind of already look at some of the technology that's available in this. So there's a couple of different technology platforms that do this. So IBM is a very, very good one. The one I personally very like is the Elastic Stack, which is a free solution, or at least open source. So that's a second way, I think, to get started, is to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the technology already. Good. I hope that answers your question. Thanks so much, John Wee, for participating. Good. In that case, I would like. Oh, I see one more coming in. Oh, yeah. Thanks for taking the question. I think we have one more question coming in. From Guna. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So same to you, Guna. What's your advice to get started from with security information and event management for non-IT companies? Well, I think I would start with looking at your security vulnerabilities. So to look at whether this is something that you need, and what are the potential threats that you might get in this area. So that would be my starting point. But if you would like, I can send you some information around this from some of the research that we have been doing, so you can get started. But I would probably also refer back towards the question from John Wee. It starts a little bit with knowledge. So start thinking about what you would like to know around this, and to get a bit more familiar with the topic on how these threats can be monitored, because it is technically a little bit complex, but I think a lot of also non-IT companies are definitely going to need this. Good, and Happy New Year to you too. Good, thanks for the questions, everyone. I don't see any additional ones coming in, so I think I would like to take this opportunity to once again thank everyone for being such supporters of Sybient over the last year. It's really been a true pleasure, and I strongly hope to see all of you again safe and sound in 2022, where we're gonna host lots more of these sessions. Thanks, everyone, and happy holidays ahead.